Yo, do you hear me? In two mics. Or one mic. No. Now it's gonna be two, I think. Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Nice.
All right. And let me just do some spamming of the internet.
Woo! Yeah. Oh, I can still hear myself in this one, so I need to mute myself, I guess.
Oh, weird. Because I muted you. I think.
Give me 1 sec, I'll figure it out.
You know, I think I muted the wrong one. Let me see if I can. How do I unmute you?
Yep.
Oh no, I muted you again. Try it. There we go. Wait.
So
there we go.
So,
I accidentally muted you again on the other one.
So what I need, the problem is that I'm hearing myself on my computer, and I want you to be able to hear that, obviously, but I don't want to hear that in my headphones. Does that mean I should just, I think. Okay. I think if I just plug myself into here, then that will fix the problem, actually. I just realized that's probably how I had it before. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Great, yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool.
Really dumb mistake. All right, sick. So are you gonna tweet it again, or what are you doing? Just posting it in Slack?
Yeah, I'm gonna post it in Slack and then I'll send it for a tweet again too.
Sweet, I'll retweet it also then. I saw that Maxon retweeted the first one, and I was like, nice. That's cool.
There we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and kill Spotify right now. These people can just wait a second. Copy, paste. Where is my Slack? There we go. If you guys are in chat already, just say hey to make sure I know the chat's working all right. Where is... There it is. Come on, Slack, do your thing.
Dude, Nate, I'm planning to get a chill with Nate Rodriguez Vera tomorrow. Did I tell you about this? I live lives right next to me.
Oh, really?
And the last night of NAB, me, Casey, Dan, and him were all out, and we found out that he lived in Bed-Stuy, and we were like, holy crap, dude! Like, that's like right next to me. That's like you're my neighbor. So we were talking for a while, and then we all made a plan to go get tacos when we got back, and then I think we were all super drunk that night, and he I don't know if he remembered any of that, but like he checked the text message, and we just kept talking after that, so it was chill.
Cool.
But yeah, that's sick that he's like around.
Yeah.
Not a ton of Brograph people are like, I don't know. I'm surprised that it seems like most people in like the Slack in kind of general are like kind of all over the place and not like in just like New York and LA, which is like, I would expect there to be more people in New York or whatever, but I also think that's cool, you know?
Yeah. And I've noticed that too. Like most of the people that I keep in touch with now are all over the place.
Yeah.
And like when I first went freelance, I was really nervous because I thought, man, I'm like in Maryland and I'm never gonna get work, or it's just gonna be local crap jobs.
Yeah.
And that's totally not the case. Like, it seems like each year gets stronger and stronger with being able to be remote.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think we're live. I just want to check chat. Cool. Yep. I got Bisky Frisket. Billy is up. Nick Bauer. HP 2009. Cool.
I'm gonna check in on that too. Wait, so you posted it on Slack?
Yeah.
That signal. Nice. Hey, there we go.
Cool. So
cool.
yeah, this is awesome.
All right.
So this goes out to like 5 or 6 different channels. So I would say just pick the Brograph one that usually has the most chatters. But I'll try and field you questions as well as they come in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess for anyone that's joining in tonight, we're doing Redshift live a night early. I have in-laws coming into town tomorrow, so I just need to push it up a night. But I'm joined by Christopher Rutledge, also known as TokyoMegaplex, and he just got a Vimeo staff award for his new video, The Loaf Zone, that came out, which was all done in Redshift. Now, we're usually doing Cinema 4D, but Chris did this all in Maya or 3ds Max?
Mostly in Maya, yeah. I did a little bit of stuff in Cinema and a little bit of stuff in Houdini. And actually, one of the scenes is Arnold's.
Okay.
The rest are all Redshift. But yeah, it's pretty much all Redshift. It wouldn't have been possible without Redshift at all.
Cool. So I think the way that we're going to just run this is I'm going to interview Chris, kind of like what I did with Billy a little while back, if you guys saw that episode. And we'll just go through some standard questions. And then Chris is going to go into his project. And even though it's in Maya, just the way that Redshift is set up, it all translates over. And he's going to talk about how he built some of his shaders and all that. Before we jump into that, I think I'm just going to go to your website for the Loaf Zone and play it really quick.
Woo!
So make sure I get that. And bring that over here. And let's have some fun.
Did you find everything you were looking for today, sir?
Yep, I'm all set.
Your total will be $11.96.
All right, here you go.
Thanks for shopping with Loaf Mart. Make good choices.
Oh, did you charge me for this drink? I had that when I came in. I bought it somewhere else.
Well, why didn't you buy it here?
Listen up. This is a robbery. Now open up the register or I'll blow your head off.
Hey, buddy, there's a line.
Hello?
Do I know her? Oh, yeah, that's that girl from that place. I wonder if she recognizes me. I hope we don't make eye contact. Should I say hi to her? Is she gonna say something to me? Oh, I'll just look at my phone and pretend I don't notice her. No way, she knows I know she's there. Shit, I gotta get out of here. Where do I go? Oh, God, she's getting closer. Fuck, I'm so fucked. Oh, God, what do I do? Fuck!
Oh, hey.
Yeah, you too.
Make sure you write that down. Over here's the copier. It's pretty handy when you need to make some copperonis. This is Bruce. He works in accounting, or should I say the nerd zone. We like to have fun here. And right over here is the
grill's hot. Who wants a hot dog?
Why are you grilling in the office?
Because I hate my job.
Barbecue big balls.
Huh. Hey man, every time I post a snapgram on my InstaChat, this girl always likes it.
Bro, you know what that means, right?
No, what?
You gotta send her a private message with a dick pic.
Seriously?
Oh man, of course, it works for me all the time.
Are you sure about that?
Do I look like someone who wouldn't know what they're talking about?
Alright, I guess, if you say so.
And then he tried to attack me with magic missiles, but I was like, bro, you can't cast magic missiles on Warlock. Everyone knows that. Hey, who is this guy who keeps sending you Snapchats?
He's just a friend.
Oh yeah? Let me see what he sent you this time.
Hey, give me my phone back.
Come on, let me just look. What are you so worried about?
Oh my god, are you okay? Richard, wake up! No, oh god, why?
Hey,
What's up?
you ever think about how even though time is super important and influences all our decision making in our lives, it's also just a thing we made up and technically it's not even real?
Not really, because usually I just think about how I really like the way my farts smell, and I wish other people did too.
Word. Hey, can I have a slice of that pizza?
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks.
Hey.
Cool. So just
Yeah.
make sure everyone gets their credit where it's due.
Yeah, John Hutton.
Yeah, I just saw that. I didn't see that the first time.
Did a little bit. He was talking to me throughout it. He was I think the first person I showed it to, but like in the Brograph group, and he helped me with some surfacing of one of the background characters and the Dank Burger shop, like with the burger and all that stuff, which was super cool. But yeah, anyway.
So before we like get into the details of that, why don't you just let everybody know a little bit about yourself? So like where you are, why you made the film, what you're doing, and all that, and how you got into even filmmaking and animation.
Totally. How I got into it is I've been animating since this sounds so cliche, but like as long as I can remember, pretty much. Like I took a claymation class in first grade, and was like terrible, obviously, at like everything, but like kind of started getting like, oh, this is sort of how animation works. In fifth grade, I picked up a copy of Flash for the first time and was like watching all kinds of Newgrounds stuff, flashplayer.com, stuff like that, the only kind of stuff that you could watch on the internet. And I was totally floored by the fact that, like, oh my god, like animation is actually made by like real people, and like not even that, but like people who are not much older than I was at the time. Like there's like 12-year-olds publishing stuff on Newgrounds that like at the time to me was really cool. But at the same time, it was also like, if you go back and look at it, it's terrible. But like to me, I thought it was good at the time, and like it inspired me to want to get into it. And I made stuff at the time that was also terrible, but like definitely like that at the beginning was the big push. And then, you know, ever since then, especially like throughout middle school, I was always animating. I kind of went on hiatus in high school, but kept doing art and doing a lot of drawing and stuff, and started making a lot of like beats and getting more into the music stuff. And then started studying animation in college for a few years. Then I like dropped out after David O'Reilly, if you know David O'Reilly, did a talk at my school, and it was like totally mind-blowing and like totally convinced me to switch to 3D, but also like almost made me want to just quit animation to like altogether, just because I was like, could not believe how good he was, and I was like, I'll never be anything close to as like talented as this guy, who like was making stuff like just like masterpieces like when he was like my age that I was at the time. Took a few years off, and then transferred to New York, and I'm graduating now like in a week from the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, which has like a 2D animation program and a 3D animation program, and like and like interactive arts program. And so I learned a lot in that program, especially in the first year. And I also, in that program, really learned, I would say, the things that I need to learn to be a 3D animator, because like when you're not doing any 3D animation, it just seems so daunting. There's so much stuff, and it doesn't seem like one person could ever do it. David O'Reilly really broke that wall for me and was like, "Oh, you can be a solo 3D artist, you know?"
Yeah.
Like telling all these stories like from scratch. And also a little before I went to Pratt, I started getting into Cinema 4D, watching Grayscale Gorilla tutorials, stuff like that, and just learning that I could kind of do some cool stuff on my own with that. And the community around Cinema 4D and around, you know, motion graphics is just like one of the best communities I've ever seen, like in my life. Like, and you know, even though I'm doing a lot of stuff in Maya because that's what school taught me, I, you know, love using Cinema 4D because one, it's an amazing program, but also like the biggest part is that it's got this amazing community.
Yeah.
So I think that now that I'm done with school, I'm gonna kind of start maybe transitioning from Maya to Cinema 4D, or at least like moving all of my skills that I have in Maya to Cinema, and a lot of that is going to come down to being able to transfer my character animation skills, which is the one kind of big thing that I think the cinema community is like sort of lacking in, because there's not a ton of character animation stuff out there. EJ has some cool stuff with some rigging. John Hutton is killing it with the rigging, and I think that there's a ton of potential for that too, especially with the sort of deformers and stuff that Cinema 4D has, like the squash and stretch, the jiggle, like all this stuff. It is like primed to be an amazing character animation tool. And one of the biggest things that I think that's missing from it as a character animation tool is just a really clear, concise rigging system. And in Maya, since it's really all about character animation, there's a lot of like auto rigger systems that people make, like plugins where you can just like rig up a biped character or like, you know, other like quadruped character or whatever really quickly. I wouldn't have been able to get this done without that. But I think that if someone made something like that for Cinema 4D, it would be a game changer. So if someone doesn't do that, I think I'm going to try to figure out how to do that with John Hutton or something like that, because I think it would be just super awesome to get more people doing character animation stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't know, just the cinema is just such a cool program, and the community would just like, I feel like, be able to do such cool stuff with that.
I totally agree.
But yeah.
Oh, no, that's cool. Yeah, like I totally agree too. Like when I think about Cinema 4D, I think of like motion design and a little bit of VFX, and it's really hard to think of people that are strictly doing characters. So like you already said, like EJ and John and yourself now, and maybe I can think of like 2 or 3 other people that are actually rigging inside Cinema 4D. And I see the question pop up every now and again on Slack or on a Facebook group, and there's maybe a handful of resources to point to. So I think you definitely are ready to jump in there and answer some questions for some people that are just kind of holding back at the moment. But yeah, you know, Billy Chicken threw up a question in the chat. He was saying, you know, after all this and getting ready to graduate and putting this out there, and now, like, I think the last I checked, you had like 20 or 30,000 plays. Are you getting tired of seeing your video, or have you just now worked on it for so long that it doesn't really matter and it's just like it's the end of the project?
Yeah, I definitely totally feel what he's saying about getting sick of working on a project after a while.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't get that at all with this project, and the reason is because I was basically like a bunch of different little projects, and I kind of did that on purpose so that I knew that I would be able to, you know, keep coming up with new ideas. And when I was at the Ottawa Animation Festival, which is one of my favorite things every year in Canada, this past one, it's September every year. Last September, this guy, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but he works at Pixar, and he's the director of one of their latest short films that came out with Cars 3 called Lou. I don't know if you saw this. It was really, really cool. But it was basically a short film about a lost and found bin that like sort of comes to life as a character. Super cool idea. You got to check it out later. I think it's on the internet. But anyway, he did a talk, and in his talk, he was talking about how you know, you think that the process of making a short film is like, you know, you write it and then, you know, like storyboards, animatic, you know, and then like modeling, rigging, you know, animation, lighting and rendering, like editing, compositing, all that stuff, like in that order basically.
Yeah.
But what it really is like, you know, writing and story, and then like, you know, storyboards, and then more writing and story, and then like animatic, and then more writing and story, like modeling, more writing and story, and you just keep getting ideas throughout.
Yeah.
So like in Loaf Zone, for example, you know, there's things in it that are like story sort of elements or jokes or ideas. Even I've heard a lot of people's favorite joke or gag in it is like the, you know, sort of very Ren and Stimpy SpongeBob joke where the shark turns from like a cartoony shark to a realistic shark.
Mhm.
And that was a thing that I was just like, when I was making the scene, I was like, ooh, I could do this, and this would be funny and would be easy to do, relatively speaking, and I think it'd be worth it. You know, that wasn't in the script at all from the beginning, but
Yeah.
like that's a thing that you add later on. There's tons of little things like that, things you come up with as you're sort of doing the acting and like sort of improv things like that, and stuff like that. Just like really helps you not get sick of working on the project. I've seen it a lot of times now, just like since it's come out, and it's screened at my school like twice. But it's always really cool when it screens because you aren't necessarily, you know, watching it like watching your film, but you're like seeing the reaction and seeing people laugh at, and that's always like super interesting to see how different audiences sort of like react to the thing you made.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I would say try to be as clever as you can when you're approaching projects. Obviously, if it's not a passion project, it's going to be harder to be enthused with it. But yeah, it's just I don't know, lots of little tricks that you can sort of play to keep yourself interested. But yeah, definitely have had that same thing happen, and that was part of sort of the strategy going into this film.
Yeah. So for like speaking of passion projects, so like now that you're graduating, what's your goal? Do you want to keep being in like a short film or like a full length animator, or do you want to go in and just start working in MoGraph just to pay the bills, or like what are your goals?
Totally. So I really want to keep making more shorts, and I love sort of the whole like festival culture and like the festival circuit and like going to film festivals, even if my stuff's not in it. The Ottawa Film Festival I've been to like a bunch of times every year. You know, there's a handful of other film festivals. They're so much fun. Strongly recommend to everyone on the Slack and anyone listening right now or whatever, any projects you have that are like, you know, kind of complete things, submit them to festivals, because you never know what, you know, is going to want them. And like I've seen like really tiny little projects done in a day for a class, you know, get into festivals and end up being pretty cool, played in front of audiences in certain contexts.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Animation Festival in particular was one of my favorites, and doesn't have a ton of MoGraph stuff, but allows submission for commercial projects. So like even like commercials you've done for, you know, I've seen like commercials for like Red Bull and stuff like that in the Ottawa Animation Festival, independent projects, sort of like school assignments, like whatever, submit it. And it's free to submit to that one as well as a bunch of other ones. So super strong recommend on that. But my goal is to keep making things that I can be submitting to festivals, collab with as many of my friends as possible. I have a ton of projects that I want to work on. End goal though, like really like dream project would be to basically, now that I'm out of school and my bank account is like empty, I want to make some money so that I can fund my next project. And I would love my next project to be making another short that could function both as a short film and like a pilot for like a TV show of some sort, you know, pitch to like Adult Swim or Netflix or like whatever, you know, kind of place would like to have something like that.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, man, I you know, I've never heard anyone in the MoGraph community talk about like film festivals, but I always hear people talking about personal projects and shorts and things like that. So I think that's really interesting. Like, I wonder how many people out there even consider submitting to film festivals, because they're probably just like, oh, I'm just a motion designer, and they don't want that. So that's really interesting to hear, especially just because you come from a completely different background. You know, like most of us are coming from design and getting into it, or getting into it from like commercial film work or advertising. And so submitting to a film festival is like just never on my mind. Now that you're saying like, man, yeah, I really want to like finish this short and like submit it to a film festival.
Yeah,
so,
totally. It's so much fun. And like, yeah, if anyone is like around, you know, the time of Ottawa or any other cool festivals that are happening, like hit me up. I would love to do another like Airbnb thing at Ottawa or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing every year. To me, that's like, you know, my mecca, I would say. Like
Cool.
I love being at NAB, but like Ottawa is like the same sort of like vibe that you get. You know what I mean? Just being around filmmakers and like getting to hang out and party and do all that stuff. And just like chill with really creative people. And I think that with stuff like the Motion Awards and things like that, you're getting more kind of crossover like that. And there hopefully will be more festivals and yeah, I've heard of some stuff. I don't remember if this is like if this is like public knowledge or not, but I've heard of some stuff from some like sort of bigger motion designers that they're trying to put together more sort of festival-y things. So I can tell you about that later. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it or not, but yeah.
I've talked to a couple too that
got like that. Yeah,
they're just like on the verge of making something happen with the festival or like kind of planning it. So that'd be really cool. So I guess. Oh, I just saw a comment in here for you too. It says from Light Somna Studio, Light Somna. I think I'm saying that wrong, but it says inspired by your work in C4D and Redshift. Keep doing lovely Oh, this is part for me. Never mind. I thought they were talking about your work, and then they said we went into tutorials. So, all right. Well, thank you for the comment about my tutorials. You're welcome. Matt just said, "Oh, she's." I don't know which Matt that is. It must be somebody from the Slack. So speaking of Redshift, and I mean this is usually like Redshift Thursday, but Redshift Wednesday. Why don't you talk about like you said you had one scene in Arnold, and then the most of it was in Redshift, and why did you end up choosing Redshift over say Octane or Arnold or even just anything else out there like Corona or whatever else you can plug into Maya? Like what drew you to this?
Yeah, I was the summer. I'd say like 2 or 3 summers ago, my cousin showed me Octane for the first time, and that blew me away because I was used to seeing people rendering in Mental Ray out of Maya and out of like, you know, physical and standard renderer. That's the only sort of renderer experience I had. I think I maybe like heard of V-Ray or something. And my cousin, his work is insane, by the way. He like does crazy like coder programming at art. Shout out to him on Twitter. He's Big Blue Boo, like BIGBLUEBOO. Yeah, he's a genius, and he totally got me into the sort of daily render thing too. But I saw him using Octane in his office, and it was like, holy crap, like GPU rendering is so fast. Why isn't everyone doing this? So I was planning to get Octane, and then I was like, what other GPU renderers are there? And I sort of Googled around, and I found Redshift also. And I did my my sort of junior year project just fully out of Playblast in Maya, which is like just like viewport rendering and turning on all the fancy viewport things, kind of like Nick's talk was about at NAB, Nick from Grayscale Gorilla. But yeah, and you can get some cool stuff out of that now, cooler stuff than you could get when I did it like back then. But I was doing that because I was like, yeah, this is sort of GPU rendering, like it's all running off my GPU, and like I can't afford to buy, like Octane right now. And I was kind of that whole semester also doing research on like, what is out there. And I found Redshift and Octane and like Furryball RT or something like that. Like tried them all out as demos and stuff. Did not understand how to use them at all. Was totally confused. It wasn't until I figured out that with Arnold that you had to just like turn up the light exposure to be able to see anything and maneuver at all. Like that, like that's how like lighting and rendering like works.
Yeah.
But the thing that really sold me on Redshift was like, one, I saw people doing cartoony stuff and it was biased, and I figured that would be better for what I'm doing. Although the real reason is that it was a little bit cheaper and it gave you all of the plugins. Like that was a huge deal breaker for me when I was looking at Octane. It was like, oh, you have to buy the Maya and Cinema 4D and Houdini plugins all separately, and I'm using all three of these programs a lot. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be like limited or like have to spend like twice as much money on this render engine. So I went with Redshift, and I'm glad to hear that Octane is Otoy is sort of reverting that and gonna release all the plugins for all of them now. And I can't wait to try that out when they come up with the free version.
Yeah.
But yeah, Redshift is just blazing fast, and I was running it off of one graphics card for a while. Threw two more in there, and yeah, my local machine rendered the entire project. I didn't have to send anything to PixelPlow at all. It was great.
Cool. Yeah, I feel that way too. Like I came from just like standard and physical renderer, and I was watching people kind of do like these speed things on YouTube and just seeing the viewport down there, and that's kind of how I learned about Octane. This was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I guess about 4 years ago at this point. It's like, man, that's awesome. And then I bought Octane, and I did that normal thing that everyone always complains about. It's like you get a project and then you just like crash and burn because you can't, you just run out of GPUs or you can't send it to a farm. So then I started looking into Arnold. I was like, oh, this is really cool. I can send it to a farm, and there's all these features that I didn't get anywhere else. And it just like there's something about it that just really stuck with me, especially like the node graph in there just made more sense to me than the node graph in Octane and things like that. And then Redshift came along. I was like, oh man, this is like the holy grail of like Arnold not going to GPU yet, and so now I can kind of get there. So yeah, I kind of went through like this process as well. But that's cool that you kind of looked at it at the standpoint of like what, not just like speed and everything, but like the quality of render you can get out of it too. Like you knew that you wanted to do like this cartoony type work. And do you feel like if you had gone with Octane, like even taking price out of the equation, that you wouldn't be able to get the same kind of texturing and materials, or do you think that it would just take time? Or
it's not what I've heard. I'd just be worried that it would be a little more crashy.
Okay.
Like Redshift is pretty damn stable overall. I've had some weird experiences with it sometimes, and I know like Chad actually has too. And I've seen like some sort of funky things. It's not quite as stable necessarily as like Arnold, but usually it can just grind through anything you throw at it. Like the feature of the out of core rendering where it uses your regular like RAM in case it runs out of VRAM was also like a super handy sort of extra selling point for me. But yeah, I honestly I feel like just the amount, the looks that you can get with like all the renderers today with the sort of brute force GI and like all that stuff, and how just like fast it is, like you can just get such cool looks, and the look that I really like to go for more than anything, which I didn't get to push as hard as I would have liked with the Loaf Zone, but definitely just will keep pushing more and more. And I've seen a ton of people do it, is like the super stylized characters or like geometry or whatever, but like very photoreal sort of rendering techniques, very photoreal materials and stuff, like cartoons, like in real life, basically. Redshift just like I don't think any other render engine could have handled this project for me the way it did. Like the one scene I tried to do on Arnold, I kind of regretted it a little bit because it ended up being too slow. That said, I think that Arnold is like, for some reason, like my favorite renderer. Maybe it's just too slow for me most of the time. But when I get to experiment, it's got some really cool features. I really want to play with RenderMan too, and I got a license for Maxwell from one of the architecture professors who I just like emailed and asked for like a student license, and he just hooked me up. So I want to try Maxwell. I've seen some really cool stuff out of Maxwell, but it's just insanely slow. Like I think it looks the best out of all the renderers, but it's also just like by far the slowest. But yeah, I don't know. I would love for RenderMan to come to cinema also. I mean,
it's been rumored for a few years now.
for a while, but they seem to have all the most cutting edge sort of features as far as like, they had like random walk SSS first, and like they just have sort of like the best looks, I feel. But yeah, Redshift is just like a powerhouse. Like you can do so much as an individual with Redshift, and I feel like when I saw David O'Reilly's stuff, like the external world is like sort of this big calling card project. That was all done with Maya Play Blast also, which inspired me to do that other project with all Play Blast. But then I just like fell in love with rendering when I started using Redshift and Arnold, and then with GPU rendering, I was like, man, like you don't need a render farm now. You can be a one-person like render farm and like one-person shop. It's just like so cool seeing the GPU thing just close the gap between indie artist and like giant studio. The quality difference there is just getting smaller and smaller. And I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm with you there with like Arnold too. Like, there's just something about it that like really draws me to it, but speed wise, I just can't stick with it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're also, what else did you say? Oh, like the photorealism thing too. Just like another shout out to like John Hutton and his like, I think it was Valentine's Day thing. Did you ever see that where it's like the like man, that looked so great. It was like just like you were saying, like kind of quasi photoreal, but at the same time, like you could tell it was cartoony. It was so well done.
Yeah, I've been blown away by all his shaders and stuff. Like he really kills it with that photoreal look. So yeah, I'd love to work on more of that stuff with him. And I'm definitely stoked for when you have him on the stream eventually.
Yeah, we're in agreement that as soon as he finishes his reel, that'll come on.
Nice.
So Billy
he posted a really cool new one today too. Check that out.
Oh, did he? I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to check it out. So Billy's saying he wants to hear about your claymation stuff and like your claymation office scene. So yeah, why don't we jump into your scenes and we can start talking about that.
Let's do it. So the clay shader fun. Sorry, I'm adjusting my mic.
That's all right.
All right. So how do I do this? Let's share the screen. Share screen and screen one. Nice. All right. Let me know if you're getting me on there.
Yep. And I'm just gonna change it to present. It says present to everyone, but I'm not seeing it. Go full. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just had to click on it. Cool.
Nice.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
So yeah, the clay shader setup. Man, I was stoked about this when I figured this out. I think you might remember it too. I was messaging in the Brograph, like trying to figure something out. So what I ended up doing was let me see if I can find it really quick.
Nick wants to know if you eat pizza through a straw.
No, I don't, unfortunately. I eat it the normal way, but I just really liked so basically when I made the Loaf Zone, I had like a bunch of ideas for I just like, it was like just a total random assortment of ideas, and it was pretty much just me going through the notes app on my phone of all the dumb stuff that I'd written down like over like a period of like a year and a half or something. And I just like one day like drank a bunch of coffee and like sit down and like open up Google Docs and then just like figured out how to write it all into a script. And one of the things I had written was like liquid pizza. Like I just wanted liquid pizza of some kind. I thought that was just a cool design thing to have like some kind of liquid pizza thing. So I just ended up working it into that other scene by making it be like the joke in that. So yeah, just explained the joke, so it's probably not funny anymore. But yeah, anyway, that was the little story behind that. Sorry, so I'm gonna find really quick. I had it up before, but I had to restart my computer. Yes, here we go. So this is how I figured out how to do this. I found this tutorial that someone had made in Maya, which is really rare that you find a Maya tutorial for anything because the Maya community is kind of garbage. But they published it in April 2012, back when people still used Mental Ray. It's just called How to Make a Plasticine Shader in Maya.
Okay.
But like, it's just a regular, Mental Ray is just a render engine, just like any render engine. And he gets this really cool result like this.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised it's like very, very easy to do. So I just copied his whole technique from here basically and put it into Redshift and did a few of my own things. So all it really is, and the way that I sort of achieved the look is you have your base, which is super simple. It's just like low reflectivity, like maybe like 0.3, and a high specular, like roughness, which is like maybe 0.7. So let me pull it out over here. Yeah. So in here, my clay shader over here, it's the roughness on the diffuse is 0.836, and the weight is 0.904. And then so for the reflection, the weight is like half, and then the roughness is like 0.75,
Cool.
0.774 to be exact. There's a little bit of subsurface scattering, just because I don't know. I thought that would be something. I don't know how like noticeable it actually is, but Redshift is just so fast that if you just throw some subsurface scattering in there, it's not really going to extend your run times too much.
Yeah.
And it's super basic. It's not even multiple scattering. It's just like the single scattering. But the most important stuff is like you just gonna get that base in there, and then you have 2 layers of bump.
Okay.
So I threw a bump blender in there, and I have just this fingerprint map here that I think I got from Polygon. And so what I'm doing is I have 1 layer of bump that is like a little bit deeper into the clay, like a permanent bump.
Yeah.
It doesn't move at all. And then I have a lighter fingerprint bump on top of it. And what that's doing is you can see over here in the UV node, which you'd have also in Cinema or whatever, you have the rotate UV and the offset. So what I did is I just animated that really fast so that it's just like kind of moving all over the place each frame. So it seems like a bunch of fingers went and touched the character each frame. And one kind of trick setting that up is if you go to Windows, Animation Editor, the graph editor, again, this is the same thing in Cinema that you would do. I just set it to sort of go up. So like this is frame 0, and then this is like frame 1 over here, and it moves. And then you go into one of these here, and you just set it to like offset the loop on infinity. And I've seen people do this in Cinema also. It's like a thing, and I'm sure you can do it in Houdini, 3ds Max, whatever, where you just set it up like so that it goes up 1 step, and then it just continues forever and ever. You don't have to like manually, key it or whatever. So it's moving like 46 degrees each frame or something, so it just seems like new fingers are touching it every frame, which is cool. And besides that, there's a nice little round corners shader in there, which I like because it just kind of sort of helps mush all the clay together and make it feel like it's all sort of one mesh a little bit. And those are all just plugged into the bump blender. Super simple. And then finally, there is just a noise on the displacement, and the noise is just animated the exact same way.
Cool.
Where in Maya, you can put in the time thing, you can put equals frame.
Okay.
In Houdini, you can put it in $F.
Yeah.
Cinema, I'm sure there's something you can do, but I don't know how to actually do it, and I've asked before, but there's got to be some little expression you can just plug in there to have it animate like that. But you could also just do the same thing that I did with the other one and just key it. But this displacement that like sort of makes it so that each frame the character just kind of mushes around and like feels like it's being like touched and moved around by human hands. So there's all that. With this, I didn't want to set up a million different shaders, so I used Chad Ashley's trick, I think, where you have like the Redshift shader switch. And you just have objects IDs for all of them, and then you like set different colors on all the object IDs. So I can just apply this one shader to the whole character, and just like it's one shader. I don't have to, it's like super convenient. I don't remember exactly how to set that up. I usually look at the documentation to like remember how to exactly do that.
I think I have a tutorial on it.
You could also, I mean, I'm sure you could refer to that, or like there's got to be a million other tutorials on how to do that there. But that's definitely a handy trick if you're doing something like this where you just want like the same shader, but like different colors of clay or whatever, for different objects. So that's all there really is to the shader.
Cool.
But then the other trick that's really worth using if you're going for like a claymation style, no motion blur, because I always have motion blur on, but if you're doing claymation, realistically it's stop motion, so it's not moving when you take the picture, so you're not going to have motion blur.
Yeah.
Really obviously, or it's going to look unnatural for claymation if you have motion blur, and that saves you render time anyway, so that's a cool thing. The only time you'd have motion blur in stop motion would be if you were, I think ILM developed a technique called go motion that you can probably Google, that they, I believe, developed for, developed by Industrial Light and Magic by Phil Tippett, and I believe it was developed for, I thought it was developed for Jurassic Park. I guess it's been around a lot longer, but it like adds a little bit of realism to the stop motion if you're trying to sell it as real motion, but this we're just trying to sell as claymation or plasticine or whatever.
Yeah.
So turn off motion blur, and then the other key thing is 12 frames per second.
Okay.
The frame rate totally helps determine the look that you're going for. So
yeah.
And this is one of those instances where you can if you use 12 frames per second, it'll actually make it kind of look better and more plausible. Maybe you can do 24, but I just think it looks a little bit unnatural for claymation to be at 24.
Yeah.
But yeah, that also saves you a ton of render time. Obviously, like you have to render half as many frames, so you can just crank the samples. I had the samples crazy high for this scene, and it like rendered overnight. I had it at like I think the max was like 2048 or something, and then I set the adaptive error threshold down to like 0.005 or something.
Yeah.
So it's super clean in the end, and that really helps clean up like the depth of field and stuff that you have too. And of course, like using heavy depth of field will make you feel extra macro and small and stuff too if you want to do that. But yeah.
So did you do like smears and stuff too as you were animating, like, or like fake smears, or did you just kind of figure that like
you can totally do that? I would strongly recommend doing stuff like that. It's not you can sort of think about it in the way that like what would be plausible in real life and what a claymation would actually look like with smears, and like what would be realistically done. To get that kind of stuff, I would really recommend, unless you have a ton of time and want to manually sort of animate all that stuff, use like jiggle deformers and soft bodies and other things like that to sort of get some cool smears, bend deformers, whatever. But yeah, I'm a huge advocate for like doing smears like that. And actually, Houdini Mark managed to throw together a really cool motion deformer, like an automatic smearer.
Oh, cool.
Of geometry in Houdini, which we talked about when we all did sort of a group thing together. But we should share that file. It's in the Brograph Slack if you want to look in there.
Okay.
Shout out to Houdini Mark, the god.
Yeah, Mark Fancher, for anyone that wants to look him up, he's amazing.
Yes, Mark Fancher. I'll just show you basically what it looks like. I sent him this, which a classmate sent me, and he was like, "Oh, I bet I could make that in Houdini." So yeah, it does, like, this is motion capture stuff here, and then like it literally you just apply it and you can tweak it or whatever, and yeah, it has like geos smears, which is super sick. So if you want to take it a step further, use this in Maya or use in Houdini the motion deformer type thing that Mark made. It was really clever. It was like I forget exactly how it worked, but it had something to do with like the direction, and if it was like in the direction of the normal that the velocity was, like if it was the same vector, then it like wouldn't smear. But if it was the opposite one, so it was like going the opposite way, it would smear. And then on top of that, we threw on a delta mush, which I don't think was on his thing, and I suggested I don't know if you're familiar with Delta Mush, but
No.
Delta Mush is like magic. Delta Mush is basically, I think it was developed at Rhythm and Hues, and it's a deformer that you can get for, you know, pretty much any of the programs. I think there's one built into Maya. You can download ones off the internet. There's either one built into Cinema, or you can download a plugin for it for sure.
Mhm.
And there's one built into Houdini, and probably every other app out there. It's like a super common thing now. But my rigs look like garbage when I deform them until I throw a Delta Mush deformer. And basically, I'll show real quick sort of what Delta Mush does on this guy. I think I have him on here. So, do I have it? I might not. I'm gonna deform him a little bit, move his arm, and then I'm going to go to deform Delta Mush. Yeah, so I think I opted not to use it on this rig, but what you can see is like you apply the Delta Mush when your character is in his original pose, so like the T pose or whatever, where, you know, he's sort of got the proportions that you want him to keep, and like the deformations that you want to sort of match, and any deformations you do after that, so any sort of like, you know, animation you do with joints and stuff, or any sort of deformers you add to it, it will use that reference that you set it at when you Delta Mushed it. And here I'm just gonna like deform him a bunch to show what I'm talking about. And his hair comes off because it is a soft body. Going to set that to not be a soft body real quick. So yeah, deforming him like that. The tie is also a soft body. So there is some sort of automatic smear, like you're talking about, that comes in with that stuff.
Yeah.
The hair and the tie both sort of moved on their own. That's another thing I love to do, is just making everything soft bodies, even if just only slightly. But yeah, so we have this really weird pose. He's really deformed, and like, you know, there's some problems with his deformations. But so we have Delta Mush on right now. I'm going to show what it looks like when I turn Delta Mush off. Where is it?
Just saw it, I thought.
Oh,
There
here
you
it is.
go.
Yeah, Delta Mush. Okay, yeah. So, or I'm gonna go into the where is it? The attribute editor. Where's like my other thing? Crap, I'm like forgetting how to use Maya all of a sudden. It's been like a week. But I'll just do it in the Delta Mush node over here. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, you can see. Crap, I'm totally blanking. I don't know where. Oh yeah, the channel box. There it is. So I'll go down here to Delta Mush, and this envelope will sort of turn it on and off. So you'll see what happens if I just turn it off, and like you get these nasty sort of chunky things that kind of look the way that clay looks when you deform it. So I actually didn't use Delta Mush for this guy because of that. But like if you're doing a more sort of organic, natural character, you know, you would want him to smooth out, and you see how much better that kind of look for most things. So yeah, it just like saves your rigging. You don't really have to paint weights as accurately because it'll just kind of clean things for you and smooth the deformations. And you can go overkill with it too. Like I usually leave it at the default smoothing iterations, which is 10. But you can sort of set it to whatever you want, and you can also do some weird artistic stuff with it too if you really want. Scale it all up or down or whatever. But yeah, so just to recap on that, basically what it's doing is it's smoothing your deformations with the reference pose in mind. So we added that to the motion deformer, and it kind of helps make it look a little bit nicer and clean up sort of the weird jaggedness of the motion deformer by default. So yeah, just a rigging trick. Strongly remesh checking out Delta Mush if you're ever doing any sort of crazy deformations or character stuff. It's like a total lifesaver.
Yeah.
And if I showed my film without Delta Mush, like with all the characters without Delta Mush on, it would have just looked so jarring and terrible because of like how weird some of the deformations would be in the rigs. Anyway, there's like my Delta Mush tangent, but
Cool.
Strongly recommend checking that stuff out.
Nice. Yeah, I've never heard that, but then again, I don't ever character rig, so I don't think that I would ever need it. But so you're saying
it can be handy for other stuff, but yeah, just sort of keep in mind, what it's doing and when it could be applicable.
So you were saying something interesting that you have some of that as soft bodies. So when I think of soft bodies, I think of like soft body dynamics in Cinema 4D. So is that what those are? Like you have a soft body dynamic, or is soft bodies different in Maya where like...
It's really cool, actually. This is one of the best features, I think, of Maya. And Maya just crashed, per usual. That's another thing about Maya that's so much more crashy than Cinema 4D. Cinema 4D is like, just like the most stable piece of software I've like ever used. It's crazy. It's a little different once you start using third-party renderers. It can get kind of crashy, but that's kind of to be expected. But yeah, so I'm sure there's a way to do this with Cinema. I don't know how to do it with Cinema, and this is one of the things that I want to figure out. But Maya's end-cloth tools are like some of the best cloth sim and soft body tools in the business, in my opinion. It's like one of the best parts of Maya is end-cloth, which is kind of meant for cloth, but it really works for soft bodies and stuff too. So I have this ball here and this plane, and I'm just going to go to end-cloth, create passive collider, and end cloth, create end cloth, and now it's going to play, and it's just kind of collapsing. So that's fun. But if I go into the attribute editor here, which has all the settings, which is like the same as the soft body settings, and you'll recognize a lot of these settings are the same as the soft body settings.
Yeah.
Stretch resistance, compression resistance, all this stuff. There's this really handy thing called input mesh attract. So I turn that all the way up, and then what happens, you'll see, is nothing. Because what it's doing is the input mesh is basically the original mesh that you're feeding it. So if you animate this guy like this, set a key here, set a key over here, you'll see it just sort of animates like normal, and it's not kind of having any soft body behavior.
Yeah.
Because it's the input mesh is set to 1, so it's 100% the mesh that you're feeding into it. Then if I were to go to input mesh attract and set it to 0, it's just gonna fall like you would sort of expect. I'm gonna set the timeline to play back every frame actual time. It's already at that. So if you set it halfway now, like this, it'll sort of half take the input mesh and just sort of like half be a soft body.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Really cool, yeah. And I've seen this done with this guy Jerome Braxton is a Blender animator, and he sort of uses this effect on everything, but it just adds sort of automatic follow through for him to like all of his stuff. Pull up his Instagram. This guy has definitely been an inspiration for me lately, especially with this one particular technique that he uses. So yeah, this is probably one where he does it. Yeah, you can see just kind of the crazy animation he has here with this dog run cycle, and it's like he's literally doing the same thing. It's like getting this crazy, and it's kind of what you get with like a jiggle deformer too. It's a little bit different. I think the jiggle deformer in C4D might be able to get the exact same result. The jiggle deformer in Maya is kind of crappy in my opinion.
Okay.
But yeah, if you just animate stuff and then throw this stuff on, like you get really cool stuff. I like this one right here. Just like this is the kind of same effect you get if you just like made things soft bodies and then set the input attract to 50 or whatever.
Yeah.
see, there's one other that I really like, but oh yeah, this one right here. It's similar thing, like with these really cool running cats. It's like you just get some crazy results. So like this is, in my opinion, a little bit too much unless you're doing something kind of more artistic, like Jerome is.
Yeah.
But if you just want a little bit of it, and you probably don't even notice it, but there's a little bit of it on a lot of stuff in my film. The guy at the end who asks for the slice of pizza is kind of jiggly, and that's because he's a soft body. I didn't like manually animate that. That would have been a huge pain. The guy, the cashier at the beginning, also his face is very slightly soft bodied, so there's just a little bit of jiggle on his lips that you can see.
Yeah.
But the one other cool thing here, if you turn the input attract all the way up to 1, there's this feature where you can go to the end cloth, paint vertex properties, input attract, and then you can choose which parts you want to get the input mesh and which parts you want to be like totally, soft body.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's not like a super good example, but you can kind of see a little bit of jiggle here.
Yep.
I'll make my brush bigger and paint more of it.
Yeah, Sage is in the chat. He's saying in cinema it's the same as follow position, follow rotation.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure there's a way to do this in every program. And like, Jerome was doing it in Blender, and it looked exactly like, Endcloth does in Maya. Yeah, that's another technique I would definitely strongly recommend for everything. And when I was seeing EJ's talk with the Jiggle Deformer, I was kind of getting the impression that that could do the same kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did for that character's hair and for his tie, and they just had it kind of collide with his body and his head and stuff, and just painted on the areas that I wanted to be affected.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a cool sort of stylized way you can get some animation without having to do any work.
Yeah, no, that's definitely cool. Let's see, Sage is at. Oh, he said that it's wizardry that you're doing that with the vertex paint.
I'm sure there's also a way to do that in cinema. No idea how.
Yeah.
But I will definitely figure it out once I start to dive more into cinema now that I have time.
Yeah. So I guess, we've already talked about your goals going forward. You kind of want to have like a quasi commercial, but also animation paying gig. So for exposure, I guess, where can people find you as we start to wrap this up? Like, feel free to just plug away and let people know where to find you everywhere.
I'm probably going to, probably not going to update Loaf.zone and the loafzone.com and like make those like my website, or like just have them redirect to all my socials.
Yep.
But TokyoMegaplex is my username on everything. So if you go to like Instagram, Twitter, and Vimeo, it's all TokyoMegaplex. SoundCloud as well, TokyoMegaplex, and I also have YouTube, but TokyoMegaplex was taken, so it's Tokyo Badmon, Badmon, yeah, that's where you find me. And I'm hopefully I'll do like a more concise version of the clay shader tutorial, and I'll probably do one in Arnold and one in Redshift as well, and I might do one of them in cinema instead of just in Maya. But yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what scene did you do in Arnold?
Good question. Do you want to guess?
Now I have to bring it back up and look. Let's see.
Anyone in the chat want to guess?
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be a good like chat question.
I'll give a hint. It is the shortest possible scene.
The shortest possible scene.
It's
okay.
not even really a scene. It's like.
Is it the end title?
No.
No. Okay. I'm kind of scrolling through right now.
Like, so many of these scenes would have just been monsters to do, and in Arnold, they would have taken so long to render.
Is it the outside with Boar Corp?
No. Good question. That is one of the good ones. Yeah. That's a great guess.
Short scene, but you said it's not really even a scene, man. I have no idea. Like that's what's kind of blowing my mind is like when you told me that you actually did one scene in Arnold, I can't really figure out where it is.
You know what? I actually did the ball pit scene in Arnold and Redshift and used the one that I did in Redshift. But I did the graveyard scene in Arnold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Super quick, like 50 frames. So I knew that if the frames were taking like 45 minutes each, I could get it back from Pixelplow and it'd still be like under $10.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I kind of wish I'd done it in Redshift because it was just such a pain in the butt to deal with uploading the VDBs to Pixelplow, and I don't think you can even tell that they're animated anyway, so it was probably pointless. But but yeah, that was there, and there's some jokes, inside jokes from some of my old friends on the gravestones.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of them now, and like Beefwell, isn't that what you changed your name to on on Twitter?
Beefwell,
yeah,
Beefwell is my alter ego. Beefwell is a character that I made up a couple of years ago, and I have a short film on Vimeo called Beefwell that is about that character. And I have a friend who's made some stuff with Beefwell, some like 2 videos with Beefwell as well.
Grant was guessing that you did it in the fun zone for kids, and so he was close. You said you did it in Arnold and Redshift, right?
Yeah, I did this one in both. Yeah, but I ended up just using the one that I did in Redshift because I couldn't figure out how to get the hair to render in Arnold for some reason. It just like wasn't showing up when I added motion blur, which is annoying. It would show up without motion blur.
That's funny. I was just thinking about asking you that. Like, how do you feel about using hair in Redshift? Like, do you think it works really well and it's easy?
I think it works pretty well. The biggest problem is that I was using this plugin that's built into Maya called XGen that was developed by Disney for the hair, and XGen is the worst goddamn plugin in the entire in all of computer software ever made.
Yeah,
it's such a buggy piece of crap. Like Autodesk bought it and like it wasn't even like done when they bought it or something, and like they just never like fixed all the bugs. So that was one of my biggest regrets. I ended up buying this plugin called Ornatrix to do hair after, and I used XGen for the whole project, but there's a lot of little errors because of the XGen that I fixed in just like comp and stuff. And part of it has to do with the linking specifically with Redshift, and I've commented a million times in the Redshift forums, and they just didn't fix it. The guy talking to the cashier in the beginning, his hair is supposed to be kind of floppy and dynamic, but because of these stupid Redshift and XGen compatibility issues and bugs, like I just had to scrap it and have it be like totally still the entire time, which was a bummer. But yeah, Cinema 4D hair is way better. And actually, we animated a spider for this Run the Jewels video at an old job I did last summer. We animated the whole spider in Maya, but then we took the entire Olympic file into Cinema 4D and just did the hair in Cinema, because the hair just in Cinema is so great. Like out of the box, I love it. Not yet another reason why I think that Cinema is like prime as a character animation tool. If they just wanted to push that a little bit harder and maybe incentivize people to make some auto riggers.
Yeah. Houdini Mark says, dude, congratulations. I cannot tell you how well you deserve the staff pick. Please hire me someday.
Nice.
So
thanks,
what's up,
man.
Mark? Yeah.
I'm super blown away still by all that stuff, but you know, I don't think I would have gotten here if it wasn't for all of you guys, and I definitely am very humbled by that comment and hope that you hire me someday to do anything. I would love to work with all of you guys, honestly, on future projects and, you know, shorts and whatever. And I think that also it'd be really fun to do the Bro Chain collab, submit that to some festivals as a short even.
Yeah, like I mean, I've talked to you about it in the past too, and like I've got like a few different stories I've written out, and now seeing this come to fruition, I'm like, oh man, I have like one story that would totally fit in like this style, and just like you referencing Ren and Stimpy just like immediately brought back nostalgia for me, because I watched that so much growing up, and just like the disgusting but humorous nature that it has too, where it's just great. And then
it's so good.
Yeah, and even like you get that a little bit with this. Like it doesn't push it as far as some of the stuff that they did in Ren and Stimpy, but
if I had infinite time, it would. But yeah, it's the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope that being on this plus your staff pick plus like I think just if you're gonna submit it to places too, I think you're gonna get just a lot of interest. Like you've definitely nailed this. It's awesome.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, I'm like really stoked. I mean, this is like the first big project I've done, and I've been dreaming of doing a project like this since I was in like 5th grade. So I'm like so happy that it's finally done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing I would say is definitely really hope people do more personal projects and character stuff. And the one thing that kind of comes with character stuff is just like, you know, really take a look at the principles of animation and practice that stuff. And there's one video that I would really strongly recommend. It's a Blender video, but I watch this video like a couple times every few months now since it came out. It's if you just search Blender Principles of Animation, it comes up here, and this guy is an unbelievable animator.
Oh yeah, I've seen him talk. He was at TED too.
Yeah, he's a genius, and he goes through the principles and sort of like remakes them as his own, and like, you know, put some 3D specific stuff in there. But yeah, this like practice the principles of animation and like combined with that knowledge and like a little bit of skill animating and like figuring out how to get there, and I'm hoping to do some kind of character animation tutorials at some point to help people with that in the MoGraph and C4D community. I think that you can combine that stuff with the knowledge of like the stuff I'm talking about, like the dynamics and stuff, to, you know, use that and like keep in mind that like dynamics adds the follow through for you, and it adds like, you know, all these elements of the principles of animation for you without even having to do the work. Like you just have to know how to do it, and you can get really, really cool results.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out that video for sure. Like again, like you can never study this stuff too much. I watch this stuff all the time. I first got into it by like I was in London with my parents forever ago, and like found a copy of the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams in a bookstore, and that was totally inspiring, and like it kind of helped set me on the right path for that stuff. That combined with like doing lots of like life drawing really helped, although I don't really do life drawing anymore. I think sketching is definitely like a really good thing to practice, and I don't know, I've always really liked sketching just like characters, and just so this was a lot of that came into play with this short, and just like figuring out how to sort of remake those designs that I'm always sketching over and over again.
Yeah.
In 3D and stuff, which is just a ton of fun.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess one last time, if anyone wants to find you, it's definitely TokyoMegaplex for most places. And yeah, man, I'm totally stoked that you came on. Like, one, last second, two, you're graduating in a week, so you're probably really busy, or at least maybe you're kind of free now that this is out. But
yeah, no, I mean, I don't have any classes left, so I'm sort of chilling. I'm working on a couple little freelance projects for people, but
cool.
But yeah, definitely hit me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, submit to festivals and like come meet me at, you know, all the cool festivals.
Yeah.
Animation Block Party in New York and the Ottawa Animation Festival are the two big ones off the top of my head. Sage and John, you guys better come out to Ottawa this September, and we can all Airbnb together. It'll be hella fun.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, don't get off Google Chat, because I want to chat with you a little bit about those festivals you were talking about earlier.
Sweet.
But I'm gonna wrap up the stream now. So everybody that's in chat, oh man, hi from Brazil. Cool. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I just saw that pop up. So everyone, thanks for hanging out as always. I'm sorry it's a day early, but I was really excited to get Chris on here. Again, go check out his new film, The Loaf Zone. It's at loaf.zone. Really easy to find. And then we'll probably be back to a regular schedule next week for just normal Redshift Live, unless I have John on if he finishes his reel. So again, Chris, thanks so much for hanging out, and everyone else, thanks for hanging out in the chat, and I'll talk to you guys soon.